Welcome back to the channel. If you're into rare coins, hidden treasures, and big value collectibles, you're in the right place. Today we're diving deep into the world of Lincoln Memorial pennies, those 1-cent coins that most people overlook but could be worth a fortune in today's market. Now, before we get started, let's get into it. First up, the 1971 Lincoln Memorial penny, a true hidden gem in the numismatic world. This 1-cent coin, minted in Denver, has gained significant attention among collectors due to its rarity, unique features, and increasing market demand. If you own one or are looking to add a rare penny to your collection, stay tuned as we explore its history, key characteristics, and its current high-value status in today. 1971 Lincoln Memorial penny is fascinating. This coin was minted in a time when the United States economy was thriving and coin production was at its peak. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln penny has been in circulation honoring the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. The reverse design, featuring the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This design continued until 208, making the 1971 penny one of the early releases of the Memorial series. The mint mark located beneath the date signifies that this coin was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the most significant coin-producing facilities in the county of Onif. The most striking features of the 1971 Lincoln penny is its fine, sharp details and strong, deep reddish-brown luster, especially when preserved in high grades, struck in 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This coin carries a unique appeal as copper pennies from this era have become increasingly sought after. Over time, many of these coins have worn down or been lost, making well-preserved pieces exceptionally rare. Collectors especially seek very fine or better condition pennies with minimal signs of wear, strong rim definition, and clear design elements. The beautiful red and brown pattern on some of these coins makes them even more desirable, as natural toning increases their aesthetic and collector value when it comes to rarity and demand. The 1974 Lincoln cent is more than just a 1-cent coin. It sits at the crossroads of tradition, innovation, experimentation, and political pressure, and to understand its full historical value, we need to go all the way back to the early 20th century to appreciate why Abraham Lincoln was placed on the 1-cent coin in the first place, and how the long-standing legacy of the Lincoln cent has shaped generations of collectors and historians. Designed by Victor David Brenner and introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the Lincoln penny replaced the Indian head cent and became the first American coin to feature a real historical figure. This was a major departure from earlier U.S. coinage that mostly depicted symbolic figures like Lady Liberty or representations of freedom, strength, and agriculture. The Lincoln cent was both a tribute to one of the most respected presidents in American history and a cultural shift in how Americans viewed their currency. From that point forward, presidents, leaders, and real individuals began appearing on coins regularly. For decades, the Lincoln cent maintained its iconic obverse design, which featured a bust of President Lincoln facing right with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date on the coin in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse design was changed from the wheat ears, known as the wheat penny, to the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparro. This new design honored not only Lincoln himself, but also the monument dedicated to him, located in Washington, D.C. This design remained in place until 2008. Now, focusing specifically on the year 1974, we must consider the context of the early 1970 when the U.S. economy was under immense pressure, inflation was rising, the cost of raw materials was becoming unsustainable, and there was growing concern in Washington about the long-term feasibility of producing billions of coins using traditional copper. The mint began experimenting with alternatives to the copper composition, and that is where the story of the 1974 Lincoln cent becomes more intriguing and historically significant than almost any other year in the series. In 1970, for the standard Lincoln cent was still being struck with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, and each coin had a diameter of 19 millimeters and weighed 3.11 grams. But because copper prices were spiking and the intrinsic metal value of the coin was approaching or exceeding its face value, the U.S. Mint authorized a major testing initiative to explore the use of alternative materials, including aluminum. Approximately 1.5 million experimental Lincoln cents were struck in 1974. Using aluminum as the base metal, these aluminum cents were lighter than the standard copper cents and were expected to be a more economical alternative for future production. However, the aluminum cents were never released to the public due to multiple concerns voiced by different organizations, including medical professionals, who warned that aluminum coins might not be visible in X-rays if accidentally swallowed by children. This health concern was compounded by objections from vending machine manufacturers, who claimed that aluminum coins would not work reliably with existing machines. The aluminum cents were ordered to be destroyed, and most were reportedly melted down, but a few escaped destruction and have become legendary. Among numismatists today, only a very small number of these experimental coins are believed to exist in private hands, and legal battles over their ownership continue to be controversial, because technically they were never legally issued by the U.S. Mint. While the aluminum cent gained the most attention, the regular issue 1974 Lincoln cent continued production in vast quantities and was minted in 3 different locations across the United States: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The coins struck in Philadelphia carry no mint mark. The ones struck in Denver bear a small d mint mark just below the date, and those produced in San Francisco have an S mint mark and were mostly made as proof coins for collectors. Proof coins from 1974 struck at the San Francisco Mint are of particular interest to numismatists because of their mirror-like finish, high quality strikes, and limited mintage. They were made specifically for collectors and not intended for general circulation, so their preservation and value tend to be much higher than circulated coins from the same year. The 1974 Lincoln cent also exhibits a number of known varieties and errors that keep collectors searching and discovering to this day. These include double diab versus repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and clipped plankets. Each of these error types tells a story about the minting process, quality control, and mechanical limitations of the time, and collectors often pay a premium for coins that feature these unusual traits. In terms of sheer numbers, over 4 billion Lincoln cents were struck in 1970 for making it one of the most widely circulated coins in U.S. history, and that widespread use makes it a nostalgic piece for many Americans who grew up in that era, or who remember using these coins for everything from buying candy to making payphone calls. Yet despite the massive quantity in circulation, high-grade examples in mint state, especially those certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, can still command significant value, particularly if they are part of the elusive aluminum test strikes, or if they carry rare error varieties. Journey into the long, detailed professional history of the 1980 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a piece that is far more than just a small copper alloy disc. It is a reflection of American monetary Evolution, national symbolism, minting technology, economic adaptation, and cultural identity. And by the end of this 2-hour video you will come to understand why the 1980 Lincoln cent is an important coin to study and collect, and why it remains a valuable educational tool for numismatists, history enthusiasts, and everyday collectors around the world. The story of the 1980 Lincoln cent begins long before 1980 itself, when in 1909 the United States Mint introduced the Lincoln cent to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. The coin was historic because it marked the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regular issue U.S. coin. Prior to that, American coinage relied mostly on allegorical figures like Lady Liberty, but with Lincoln the country shifted toward honoring actual national heroes and setting the tone for the way future coinage would recognize American contributions and values. The obverse of the Lincoln cent in 1980 still proudly displayed the right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln based on a design by sculptor Victor David Brenner, a design that had remained essentially unchanged since its debut in 1909, and the motto, "In God We Trust," appears along the upper rim. Liberty is placed to the left, and the date, 1980, is clearly stamped on the lower right, along with the mint mark, if applicable, either D for Denver or S for San Francisco, or no mint mark for Philadelphia coins. This continuity in design across decades gave the coin a unique sense of familiarity among generations of Americans. The reverse of the 1980 Lincoln cent featured the image of the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears reverse. The Lincoln Memorial reverse was created by Frank Gasparo, and it aligned with the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This design shift in 1959 created the unusual but powerful situation of having both Lincoln's bust and a representation of the Lincoln Memorial on the same coin, which in itself contains a small rendering of the seated Lincoln statue, making the Lincoln cent one of the few coins in the world to feature the same person twice on the same face of a single coin. The composition of the 1980 Lincoln cent was still 95% copper and 5% zinc, a metal mix that had been standard for most of the 20th century. This changed only in 1982, when the U.S. Mint transitioned to a predominantly zinc coin with copper plating in response to the rising cost of copper. This makes the 1980 cent part of the last group of fully copper-based coins, a feature that gives it added weight, durability, and collector interest, especially as later coins differ in tone, sound, and wear patterns due to the change in metallurgy. During 1980, the United States Mint was operating in multiple locations, with Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all producing cents, but the San Francisco Mint was primarily focused on proof coinage, meaning the majority of regular circulation coins came from Philadelphia, and Denver mintage numbers were strong, with more than 7 billion coins struck across all facilities, meaning that the 1980 cent is not considered rare in circulated condition. But what makes it fascinating are the finer details, the die variations, the doubling errors, the planchet flaws, and the crispness of strike that can elevate a common cent into a collector's prize. In our exploration, we will discuss how minting technology evolved. By 1980, the Mint was using high-speed coining presses, automated feed systems, and improved quality control protocols. But human error and mechanical wear could still lead to interesting variations, and these varieties are often the subject of serious numismatic study. For example, collectors may search for doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, or other minting anomalies, which give otherwise common coins added value and character. Economic conditions in 1980 also play an important role in the context of this coin. The United States was facing high inflation, rising interest rates, and changing political landscapes as the country moved from the Carter administration into the Reagan era. The value of small denominations like the penny was being debated, and the costs associated with minting billions of cents annually were becoming a concern for Treasury officials, but the penny remained essential for pricing psychology, for vending machines, and for everyday transactions. And so the Lincoln cent continued to be produced in staggering numbers. The cent also had cultural meaning in the lives of many Americans. It was a coin associated with childhood memories, coin collecting hobbies, and the idiom, "A penny saved is a penny earned," which was often attributed to Benjamin Franklin. Though not accurately, this small coin found its way into charity jars, parking meters, arcade games, and piggy banks, and served as a gateway for millions of young people to begin their journey into the world of numismatics. For coin collectors, the 1980 Lincoln cent represents a bridge between the old copper-rich coins and the coming changes of the 1980s and 1990s. It is part of the pre-zinc era and therefore offers a richer reddish tone and heavier feel than its later counterparts. It is still widely available in circulated condition, but high-grade and circulated examples, especially with red luster designated as MS65, red or higher by professional grading services, can command respectable premiums. In this video we will explore how coins like the 1980 cent are graded, the distinctions between red, brown, and brown toning, and how environmental factors like heat, moisture, and handling can affect a coin's preservation. We will look into the numismatic market for 1980 cents, including auction results, dealer insights, and demand among set builders who are putting together full-year collections or Lincoln cent albums. We will also trace how the Lincoln cent became a core element of American coinage culture, how it influenced coin designs around the world, and how it remains a benchmark for discussions on currency, utility, cost efficiency, and national iconography. We will interview collectors, we will look at real examples under magnification, we will compare mintage charts, and we will examine era coins, and even attempt to identify a few rare varieties that are known from the 1980 production year. So if you're ready to explore not just the coin itself, but also the systems, the history, the art, and the economics behind the 1980 Lincoln 1 cent coin, you're in the right place. Thank you for joining me once again on LC Coins World. Be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join me on this numismatic adventure as we give this humble coin the spotlight it deserves and tell the story behind the copper that once jingled in the pockets of millions and still holds the power to educate and inspire collectors today. Thank you for joining me on another exciting journey into the heart of numismatic history, where we bring coins to life by uncovering the stories behind their minting, design, significance, and place in both national and global culture. Today, we will dive deep into the long and detailed professional history of the 1976 Lincoln 1 cent coin, a piece of American currency that holds far more meaning than its face value suggests, a coin that represents not only the legacy of a president but also the turbulent and transformative years of the United States as it marked its bicentennial. The 1976 Lincoln cent is a continuation of one of the most iconic and longest-running coin series in American history. The Lincoln cent series, which began in 1909, has carried with it the portrait of the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, whose leadership during the Civil War and his vision for a unified nation made him one of the most revered figures in American history. And by the time 1976 arrived, the Lincoln cent had already become a cornerstone of American coinage, used daily by millions of Americans and collected by generations of numismatists from beginners to experts. Designed originally by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the 1976 Lincoln cent continues to feature the right-facing profile of Abraham Lincoln with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," at the top, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1976 to the right. Beneath the date, one may also find the mint mark indicating whether the coin was produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco mints, although in that year coins from the San Francisco mint were typically proof issues and not for general circulation, unlike other U.S. coins that were specially designed to commemorate the American bicentennial in 1976, such as the quarter, half dollar, and dollar. The Lincoln cent maintained its traditional design. This decision was likely due to the cent's role as a high-volume everyday coin and the logistical challenge of redesigning such a massively produced denomination. Still, the coin serves as a historical artifact of that pivotal year in American history, reflecting the country's enduring commitment to the values Lincoln stood for, even as it celebrated 200 years of independence. The reverse of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, which had replaced the original Wheaties design in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Designed by Frank Gasparo, the memorial was a fitting symbol for the cent, not only connecting it visually to a real landmark in Washington, D.C., but also literally placing Lincoln twice on the coin, since a tiny representation of the seated Lincoln statue can be seen between the columns of the memorial under magnification. In terms of composition, the 1976 Lincoln cent was struck in a bronze alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This composition had been standard since 1962 and gave the coins their classic reddish tone and a heavier feel compared to. In terms of composition, the 1976 Lincoln cent was struck in a bronze alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This composition had been standard since 1962 and gave the coins their classic reddish tone and a heavier feel compared to the later copper-plated zinc cents that would begin production in 1982. This makes the 1976 cent a part of the last decade of traditional bronze coinage, which collectors often seek out for both aesthetic and historical reasons. The economic conditions surrounding the minting of the 1976 cent also play an important part in its history. The mid-1970s in America were marked by inflation, economic uncertainty, and a heightened awareness of the cost of minting coins. The penny remained in use for retail transactions, vending machines, and as a psychological pricing tool, yet debates were already beginning about whether the cost of production was justifiable. As the price of copper rose, the value of the metal content in each coin was getting close to, or even surpassing, the face value, creating concern at the U.S. Treasury. The United States Mint struck billions of 1976 Lincoln cents, with the Philadelphia and Denver mints responsible for the majority of general circulation coins, while the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins. For collectors, the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark, while the Denver Mint coins can be identified by the D beneath the date. In total, over 4.2 billion cents were produced that year, making the coin extremely common in circulated condition. Yet despite the high mintage, there are still interesting aspects for collectors, especially those focusing on die varieties, era coins, and high-grade examples. The world of era coins is particularly fascinating, with 1976 Lincoln cents as die cracks, die clashes, off-center strikes, and double dies can all be found with patience and careful searching. For example, some collectors seek out coins with misaligned dies that cause one side of the coin to appear off-center, or they hunt for subtle variations in the lettering or memorial design that indicate a double die error, and these types of varieties, while rare, add a new dimension to the collecting experience and elevate an otherwise common coin into a treasured find. Grading also plays a vital role in the value and Collectability of a 1976 Lincoln cent. Most coins found in circulation will be worn and graded between VF and F on the numismatic grading scale, but coins that have been preserved in and circulated condition and exhibit full red luster can fetch higher prices, particularly when certified by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC on S65. Red or higher 1976 Lincoln cent is not only beautiful to behold, but also carries collector value due to its relative scarcity in top condition despite the overall high mintage.